Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. You can always reach me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. You guys usually don't contact me, but you should, because I'm always one guest and one topic away from blowing up. And, I've thought a lot of times of stopping doing these podcasts. I love to do them. I enjoy them. I know I have some people that listen to them on a regular basis, but I wish there was thousands of people that would listen to them on a regular basis. And you never know, maybe I'll get there one day. But like I said, if you have a guest or know somebody that would be a good guest, or maybe you'd be a good guest, contact me, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. We'll see if there's some synergy there. And if there is, we'll get a podcast scheduled and see how we do. My most listened to podcast so far was one about what the devil would tell you if he wanted you to fail. And it's funny. I think it was the picture that I put on YouTube, and that's a big deal when what picture you have because it resonates with people. So if that's the case, there's a lot of sick people out there because I had a picture of the devil, and they might have been listening to it for that reason. So anyway, today I'm going to talk about rejection. And I know that you think that I come up with these topics and they all seem really negative, like the one on trauma and the one on the devil, the negative things that they would tell you. But it's not about that. It's about the no limits. It's about not letting those things limit you. Now, we've all been rejected in our life. Since we were little kids, we've been told no. And I have some stories about that I'll get to. But what prompted this podcast was you all know that I want to do some public speaking. And the way to start that, as far as I was concerned, is to find small groups that are looking for speakers and speak for free. I mean, obviously they're not going to pay me. A little nonprofit group is not going to pay me. But so I was at a meeting, I was listening to a speaker, and I'm going to tell you about that speaker in a minute. And they were asking for speakers if we knew anybody that could do that. So I had taken some clips from my last podcast about trauma when I talked about that's a topic that I wanted to speak of. And it was just some clips from my podcast, not me up speaking about those things. And I sent them, and I know they looked at them, and so this woman, she takes these clips to the board of directors, and the board says, you know what? No, that's not what we're looking for. We want to do something that's going to help our members, that's going to, pertain to business or what have you. So it was, and the email I got back was very straightforward and blunt, and it was kind of rude, to be honest with you. But um, I know that a lot of you, when I started this podcast, probably thought I was going to be that unhinged Ed. And I feel like I'm getting to that point. I've been very calm and patient on this podcast. I'm not standing up, so it keeps me a little bit more down to earth. But I understand why older people get mean because there's so much BS going on, and they decide that they're just not going to deal with the BS anymore. So they'll tell the truth, and when they do that, it sounds like they're being mean. It's not because I'm in a bad mood all the time. It's because of some of the stupid shit that goes on that I have to deal with on a regular basis. And just by the way, there's going to be a little more cussing in this one. I can feel it. I don't want to do it on purpose, but I can kind of feel it's coming on. So I sent this email over to her with some clips. She rejected me. And I don't care about the rejection, really. I was kind of irritated at the way she phrased the email, but that's just her, right? So does that rejection bother me? It bothers me that I wanted to speak to this group. It bothers me that the speaker I was hearing that day had nothing to do with business, and it bothers me that the one they did today is a horseshit thing. My topic is much more relevant, just to be honest with you. It's much more impactful to help people succeed. It's much more about people taking a personal look at themselves so they can be the best version of themselves and to do a better job. So did that irritate me? Of course it irritated me. Am I mad? She said no. Nope. I've been told no millions of times. The speaker that was there when I was there, that prompted this ask from the organization, was talking about AI, how do you use it in business, right? Artificial intelligence. We're going to talk a little bit about that today too. And this kid gets out there, he's a young guy. Well, I don't care about that. Starts talking about AI and what it can do and what it's done and how he uses it. And he gets off on this tangent about how he went to a wedding and he didn't, he was talking to a guy and they found out that he didn't have a girlfriend. And the guy was, they were just having a regular conversation, like, well, what are you looking for in a girl? Maybe I know somebody. I think it was that kind of conversation. And he ended up talking about how he went to AI on his phone via voice and started talking about attributes he was looking for in a girl. Or actually, I don't even know if it was a girl. It could have just been whatever the relationship was. I don't know. So he tells us how he's got this conversation going with AI, and he's doing this for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, talking to this computer, well, his phone in his hand, to artificial intelligence, and they're going through all these things. Then he tells us how he went for a walk. I think he walked his dog or something. He goes to the park and he walks for an hour and still talking to this AI thing. So he's running really long, and I can see the frustration from the person who put this whole thing together. And so they finally get him off the stage, right? And he comes down, and I kind of shook my head, and he says, "What?" And I said, "Well, that kind of turned into kind of an odd conversation, right? Kind of an odd topic for speech. Had nothing to do with business or how to use it in business. I thought he was going to be talking about chatbots and things like that, but it had nothing to do with that." And he says, "Well, why is that unusual?" I said, "Because when I was your age, we just went up to a girl and asked her out. You know, we met him at church, we met him at a bar, we met him at school, we met him wherever. And that's kind of how we did it. And you guys, and this AI, you're talking to a computer about how to find a mate. You're going to get some sniffles and some choking today because I've had a friggin' head cold for about a week. So I apologize for that. So I just, and I know it kind of embarrassed him for me to say that, but I was twice his age without a doubt. And it was just, man, this AI thing at one level is really pulling these people down a hole, and it's this hole of laziness. There's no natural intelligence anymore. They're thinking, well, it's just easy. All you got to do is ask AI, and AI will tell you. And they kind of look at us older people and they go, "Well, you guys don't understand AI." Dude, we invented AI, by the way. My generation, Gen X, the next generation, invented AI. All AI is, for you that do not know, is called a bunch of collected information. They average it out, and when you ask a question, you get the average answer. The other day, I put in a job description for a salesperson, and lo and behold, it's the same job description, just about that every company's got out there for sales. So they're not even writing their own job descriptions; they're letting AI write their job descriptions. So it was just kind of funny. And when I went and looked at this guy's website, it's exactly what it's just this. He just isn't creative enough or whatever to use his own mind. He's got to, or his own experiences. He's going to use AI to spit out a bunch of jargon. So it's kind of funny. And then the one they're having today, and they're probably going to see this and not be happy about it, and I don't care. They're doing dream boards. If you guys know what a dream board is, I used to do these 25 years ago with my kids. We'd put up kind of, on a board, on a trifold board that stood up, and they do these in school too, and kind of put what they wanted to focus on in the next 6 to 8 months, 10 months, 10 years, it doesn't matter. And you put these things up. So they said that my topic wasn't relevant, and they're doing a topic about dream boards. So listen, they can do what they want. It's their organization. If they want to put out that bullshit, they can go ahead and do that. The topic that I had was better, and it's okay. So when I was looking at on AI. Actually, I was looking on, how many times people get rejected in their life or daily or whatever, and it said that highly ambitious people get rejected more because they have ideas and they're going to spit out ideas and they're thinking a lot, things like this, and they can't get the masses to agree with them, so they get the no's all the time. And that's okay. I don't mind getting a no. I know when our kids were little, when you take your children to a checkout line and they have candy on either side of it or crackers or something like that, and the kids want something, they'll say, "Hey, Dad, can I have that?" And I would say no. Generally, I would say no for a couple of reasons. One, I couldn't afford it. Two, they don't need to have candy and all that bullshit stuff when we're going through line, we're getting dinner. And three, I just didn't tell my kids yes every 5 minutes. I mean, why would I do that? Most parents don't. The grocery stores put that stuff there specifically so your kids will ask for it. And I had someone make a comment one time to say, "Oh, Dad, just let her have it." And I won't even tell you what I said to her because I talked about cussing. There's a lot of cussing in that answer. But even when I was a child, we just didn't ask our parents for things like that because we knew what the answer was going to be. And frankly, we just weren't brought up that way. We just didn't ask for everything every 5 minutes. We were grateful for what we had. And I remember I always talk about Christmas with my mom. I don't even know how my mom afforded Christmas, but we always got nice things. And how dare we ask for other things during the year when I know my parents were struggling and all that. So that was just funny. And we know that, we've all been rejected on an emotional level, especially us older people that had to actually go up and ask a girl to go out. And they would say no, and didn't matter what the reason was. It was rejection. And it's kind of, I kind of hate this saying, it's just life, but that's just life. You're going to get rejected in life. There's jobs I haven't gotten. There's sales I haven't made, things like that. I don't look at it as this emotional wrecking ball. But again, looking it up on AI, I put in how does rejection affect people? And it had this whole list of these really horrible things. I mean, self-esteem and all that. I used to kid with people and say, if someone tells me no, the first thing I would think of is, what's wrong with you? Why would you tell me no? Don't you know who I am? Kind of thing. Especially in sales. Don't you understand the product I'm selling? Have I not done a good job at explaining to you why you need me? And I mean, that was my ego talking, but it was also my way to just get over that rejection too. Um, and a lot of times when those people say no, it's a blessing in disguise, especially if you're asking somebody out. Maybe you ask a girl out and you go out with her and she's a psychopath. Or maybe she thinks I'm a psychopath. I don't know. So a lot of times those no's are good for you. And I know I just don't think rejection is always negative. I think it's just what happens. I was with I was at an event one time. No, I'll tell you what it was. I was at work and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, do you guys do storage?" When I was in the moving and storage business. And I kind of had a stupid look on my face. I'm like, of course I do storage. And I started thinking, I said, am I guilty of not explaining what I do for a living? Because that happens sometimes. Salespeople will get off on this tangent and they forget to tell exactly what they do. They think the person they're talking to already knows. And it's not always the case. It's happened to me several times. So I'm always really explicit and I want to really tell people what we do. This current job I'm in, there's a backstory to the franchise. They've been in business 25 years. Even though we've been we've been in San Diego less than a year, the company as a whole has been in business 25 years. They have 500 locations, 500 offices nationwide, 300 franchisees, over 300 franchisees. So they have that credibility that they should be in business and they're worthy to be in business. But well, we have to remember to tell our customers that, because they ask us, if they say, well, how long have you been in business? And the owner says, well, since last April, almost a year, that's not credible. But if we say we've been in business 25 years with over 500 offices in the United States and 300 franchises, 300 plus franchises, you see the credibility is different. And I don't think that's any different than when you're asking somebody out for a date, by the way. If you're just asking some random person out for a date, of course they're not going to go out with you if they don't know who you are. There's got to be some. So I know right before I met Kit, there was this woman at school. I used to see her walking her child to school, and a very attractive gal, and I didn't really even know her, but she had seen me on several occasions, and I had seen her. And I don't know if our kids were about the same age. I don't really remember who the girl was, but I remember that I asked her out, and she said no. And it was all right. I was like, okay, cool. I just thought I'd ask. I see you on a regular basis. Now, blessing in disguise, because possibly if I would have went out with her, I never would have had an opportunity with Kit. So you have to, just like anything else, you got to process this rejection. And I know a lot of people that would say that they would never want to be in sales because you guys get told no all the time. I mean, I guess on average, depending on the product and the industry, the closing ratio is about 30 to 40%. It was in the moving industry. And so that means for every 10 people you talk to, you're only going to get 3 or 4 of those jobs. So 6 people are going to tell you no. I never looked at that as a negative. I looked at it as I don't want all the business because they can't handle it all. And yes, some people they're not always saying no to you. They're saying no to the product. They're saying no to maybe they had a bad day and they're just saying no. There's a guy I listen to quite a bit on social media that talks about you're going to get told 7 times you're going to get told no, or 6 times you'll get told no out of 10. So if you've already been told no 5 times in a week, there's only one more time you can get told no, and the rest of them are going to be yeses. It doesn't sound like that makes sense, but it does really make sense when you talk about it. I know that I became a better salesman as I started to not care if I got a job. So if I'm talking to a guy and I'm giving him pricing, or a girl and I'm giving him pricing and I'm giving a proposal, and they say no, I'm like, okay, I don't really care. I mean, I don't say that to them, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't care. I just go to the next job. It takes too much time to figure out why they said no. And so I really don't have the energy or time to do that. It could be price. It could be a lot of different things. I swear it's not price, but some people will use that for an excuse because maybe they have a friend that does it or whatever. So I was just talking to my daughter. I was texting her and she was frustrated, and she said she just drove an hour to a meeting and found out the meeting's not till tomorrow. The person who set the meeting up for her made a mistake. And I said, let me guess. She says, oh, I'm sorry. I really hate those 3 words because people will do stuff intentionally, or they'll do stuff because they're not thinking, and then they go, oh, I'm sorry. Like it's supposed to fix the 2 hours she just drove. And now she's got to rearrange her schedule tomorrow and this and that. And this happened to me last week. I went to an event, and when I got there, I drove 30 minutes down into San Diego at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the event was canceled, and they didn't tell us. There was another woman sitting there that had driven even further than I had, and she was not happy about this event being canceled, and we weren't told. The funny thing about it is we had to RSVP for the event, so it really was frustrating. But this is part of the problem with our with society right now, and I would say the 25 to 35-year-olds, where they are using AI, they're relying on that and not relying on their normal intelligence. Like she could have made a phone call and confirmed that thing was there. I didn't have anybody to call. I was trying to figure out who to call to find out if that event was still happening, and just rolled the dice and went, and I got burned. Um, so um, I use this rejection a lot of times as motivation. I cannot tell you how many jobs I've been turned down for since COVID started. And it's getting worse now because of my age. So now they can kind of determine my age. I don't put AI pictures on LinkedIn or anything like that. So when they see me, they know I'm not 25 years old, which is fine with me, except they're determining their answer based off of a picture, or not my enthusiasm, not my skills, not my knowledge, not my wisdom, none of that. It's all based on probably what I look like, which is horribly discriminatory, but unprovable, right? I can't prove it. That's the reason. There's an organization in town. I won't mention the organization. And I was showing Kit yesterday. This gentleman that runs the organization has a AI picture on his LinkedIn account, but I just met him last week on Thursday. We had to sit down and have coffee, and it looks like 2 different people. It doesn't even look like the same. Like I have an AI picture that I put up before kind of as a joke, but you can kind of see that it's me. This guy, you couldn't even tell it was the same person. The picture was probably 30 years ago, the first thing. And that's funny when I see these headshots on and they're getting produced by AI, or they're ridiculous. I mean, they make you look fantastic, but it's not real, right? And man, I go back to when I was a kid, and we dated much younger than the kids do these days. I mean, I had a girlfriend in elementary school, Obviously, it wasn't really a girlfriend. We just kind of hung out. And I had girlfriends in high school and all that. I asked out several girls and got turned down. Um, and then as a young man, before I got married the first time, I would ask people out on a regular. Now I got a lot of yeses, but I got a lot of no's too. But I don't know. It just never bothered me to get rejected. It bothers me when people reject you for the wrong reason, and that's why that speech bothered me so much is because the gal didn't even really look into what I do. She might have looked at some of my other podcasts, might have seen me wearing a hat, might have seen me, I don't know, whatever. And I should say that the woman that rejected me is also a competitor of mine, but I hope that wasn't the case, that she was, using that criteria as not letting me speak to this organization. And there's a lot of organizations out there. And I'm not done on this soapbox. I'm going to get out there and speak in front of people because when I talk about it, I go on TikTok or wherever and I'm looking and I'm seeing articles and I'm seeing all these things about exactly what I want to talk about. It's a total relevant conversation to have with people about getting over trauma, about dealing with this rejection. How do you deal with this rejection when you get it? When you get told no and no and no. Let me tell you, if if Steve Jobs or the guy that does Facebook, Zuckerberg, or all these other people would have went off as getting told no, we wouldn't even have computers right now. We wouldn't have cell phones for sure. We wouldn't have a lot of things that people gave up after they got rejected. I mean, what do they say about not Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison tried everything like 1,000 times before he failed 1,000 times before he got the answer right. So I encourage you to get out there and risk the rejection. If anything in life, if you want to get, it's not going to be easy. You can get out there, and if you get rejected, you get rejected. Just move on to the next thing. Don't worry about it so much. But I just came up to me because I thought, I just keep getting turned down for stuff, and that's okay. I know when I was running the chamber, I came up a lot of ideas I came up with. I could see in people's faces they didn't like them. But the funny thing about it is, once they were successful ideas, they were all about, oh man, yeah, we were behind that the whole time. Bullshit, you weren't behind me. And that's why I'm not the president of the chamber now, because they didn't want to get back into that groove. So whatever, you can tell me all your bullshit if you want. I know what the reality is of everything. And this is where I said the old Ed is coming back. It's like the unhinged Ed. I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm going to have to come up with something I can do on my own that's going to produce income because I still need it. We have a government that is just out of control for the last 25 years. They're making horrible decisions. We're in this crazy, horrible economic situation. And this didn't happen overnight. It's not Trump's fault. It's not Obama's fault. It's not Clinton. It's all their faults. They all have their hands in this shit, and they're all ruining everything for us in America. Now, do I hate my country? 100% no, because there's a lot of people out there like you that want to do better and they want to create things and they're going to be successful. And that's who I want to be around. I want to be around you when you're successful. And I want you to be around me when I figure out how to do this, because I will figure out how to do this. I'm so frustrated right now with things that I know an answer's coming, because that's generally how it happens. Once I get backed into a corner, I come out scratching, screaming, and something will come out of all this. And you know what I'm going to get? I'm going to get told no 100 times, and I don't give a shit if I get told. I don't care, um, because the people that are telling me no, they don't mean anything to me a lot of times. I've never been told by someone that I was really respected. And I tell you, I go back to that speech thing. If I was running a chamber and somebody had come to me and want to speak like that, I would figure out a way to get them an opportunity, even if it was the smallest opportunity, because you never know what that person's going to turn into. You never know what that speech is going to do. And it can completely flop. That's okay. It doesn't matter. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And for them to just say no in such a rude way, which irritated me, that was just the cherry on top, is that they were rude. I didn't care about being told no. They could have said, you know what, right now it's not a good time, maybe in the future. Much better answer, much easier, more palatable for me to take. But like I said, it just helped. It just made me understand that the person that's in some of the people that are in this business. I went to excuse me. I went to on Monday, I went and volunteered at the senior center. Every Monday in Poway, they do this lunch for seniors, and you can go there. Anybody can go to this lunch. And if you're 55 or older, I think it's $5, but you have to go the day before or prior to the lunch day you want to go. You can't go that day. And you pay like $5 or whatever. And what you do is you go into this room and it's like a cafeteria style thing. They'll come out and serve you food. And it's good food. It's not a ton of food, but well, for me, I mean, I'm twice as big as most of the seniors. But this month, so I had gone and done that about a month ago. I went and sat down with these seniors and had lunch, and it was really enjoyable. I mean, it was nice. We're talking about old times and things like that because I'm a senior, by the way. And it was just nice hanging out with these older people, and they really look forward to this lunch. It's kind of it's either a daily or a weekly event for them, and they look forward to it, and it's awesome. So I was there serving food. So when they come in to give me their ticket, I go back, get their food and serve it to them and get them whatever they need. One of the women that was there asked me what my arm said. And if you guys have never seen my arm, I won't hold it up because it's going to mess up the camera. It says the dream is not what you see when you're asleep. The dream is what won't allow you to sleep. So basically, if you have an idea that's this wonderful idea that you've been just obsessing over, you won't see it while you're sleeping. It won't let you sleep because you can't stop thinking about it. And this other guy piped in and we just started having this conversation about that saying. And he was saying some things about philosophers and this and that. And I was talking and I said, you know what really gets to me about seniors, because I'm in this business and I have been for about 5 months, is we kind of take these seniors and we set them off to the side just to kind of keep them out of our way, right? Not me, but younger people. And the businesses that are involved with seniors, they're all trying to get in their pocket, to get something out of them. And I'm not saying that they're doing it um, with an ulterior motive, but the reality is that seniors, they need to spend money on things like home care is what we do, or investments or whatever they're doing. They're trying to manage their life. So as I was talking to this table, I said, I really want to talk to seniors and explain to them how much value they still have in this world. You're not getting pushed out to the side. And maybe they don't have the technological skills all the time that we have, or that they use AI, but they have these wonderful stories and this knowledge and wisdom that they learned way before a lot of you were born, way before I was born, even the greatest generation, World War II. And I want to encourage them to get that out into the world, right? So I was talking to them about speaking, and the woman that had originally commented to me said, I don't know why you need to talk like that. I was kind of surprised. I said, talk like what? And she says, why you have to use that language? And I really thought about it. I don't think I used a bad word, but it's very possible I did. You guys all know me. It's not unusual for me to use a bad word. I've already used a few here and I'm not done yet. And I said, wow, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize I was just moving along pretty fast and didn't understand that I said something wrong. So um, she got up and walked away. And this guy says, well, you know what? She's just really conservative. Don't worry about her. I said, okay, well, whatever. I'm not worried about her. I don't fucking, excuse me. I don't really care what I said. If I said something and she got her feelings are probably sticking out too far. I don't know. So I went and continued on my duties, handing out things. And then I was cleaning up plates and things like that. And I got a little glass of lemonade. I was just taking a break. I was sweating like crazy. I was in this room. I was running around. I have a new respect for servers, by the way, because I never did that in my life. And I was sweating my ass off. So I'm standing there and she walks up to me and says, I just wanted to say that, I've said those words before and this and that. I said, well, look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, she goes, you got to stop telling me you're sorry. I said, well, what do you want me to say? She says, well, I'm a boarding in Christian. And I said, okay, right. I still don't know what you want me to say. And she just kind of shook her head and went and sat down. So oddly enough, the person that's running that runs this event came in and I said, she goes, how did it go? I said, it went great. I only pissed off like one person and there's probably 80, 90 people in here. I said, I'm usually, by this time, I'm usually six deep. I've already irritated six people. And she kind of laughed. And I said, it's that woman right there. And she goes, oh, yeah, never mind. So apparently she's done that before. But the thing is, the funny thing is that it's kind of that one thing you got to lift off your shoulders about what people think. If I cared what people think, I wouldn't try anything, right? I wouldn't dress the way I do. I wouldn't do a lot of things. But that's a funny thing I just said. I dress different than probably most men. I wear jewelry, I wear stuff that, I wear big watches, I wear colors. I have pink shoes on right now, by the way. I got a pink hat on. And so I guess I do. I guess I am dressing like that for people to look at me. I don't know. I just like the stuff, so I kind of do it. If somebody said I don't like your shoes, I'd say I don't fucking care. Just get away from me. I don't need to comment. Just if you don't like them, don't look at them. I don't care. I don't like people with pink hair either. Sometimes, and 18 piercings and 75 tattoos on their neck. But I have tattoos all over, and if you don't like them, don't get them. You know, but that's kind of that rejection thing, right? I know when I walk into a room, if I'm wearing short sleeves, I'm going to get looks, and my boss looks at me all the time. If I wear a short sleeve to a meeting, he's constantly looking at my tattoos. He doesn't have any, that's fine. That's his business. It's his prerogative. I don't know what to tell you. Um, but it also lends itself to when my kids wanted piercings and things, and Carson once has a couple piercings. I discouraged them from tattoos only because they're permanent, and I didn't get tattoos till I was later in life. But they didn't listen, and they went and got some, and none of them looked horrible. It's just, when you go to some people, and I told you the other day, or told you in another podcast, where a guy at church on Christmas Day wouldn't shake my hand. And I know he looked right down at my tattoos and decided I wasn't a person he wanted to be, acknowledging or whatever. Still, okay, doesn't matter. That was her business. If she didn't like the language, then I won't talk to her anymore. It doesn't bother me. Um, she had a pink cowboy hat on with a uh, pink jacket that was sequined. So not something I would wear, but that's her business. I didn't judge her when she came in. I don't care. So anyway, I'll wrap this up because I know I'm just rambling, and this wasn't like this most super important podcast I've ever done or anything, but I just wanted to. I just get this rejection often, right? I get told no over and over and over. I get emails, no, 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 you're not qualified. No, you're not this. No, you're not that. And they're leaving a lot of money on the table as far as I'm concerned, because if they met me and they knew how enthusiastic I was and knew how, I wanted to set the world on fire, they would be more apt to probably give me an opportunity to at least speak. I want to look for, I had this saying, it was on TikTok the other day, and this lady was saying there's three things you got to have to be a good leader. And one of them is empathy, right? You have to kind of understand that people are going through something, and kind of, you can't be sympathetic if you don't know what they're going through, but you can be empathetic and understand that it's something that's affecting them. The second thing was enthusiasm. You got to be enthusiastic. You got to be really out there. And you got to be likable, right? You got to be able to walk into a room and meet people and smile at them and get along with them. We went to an event this Thursday. Kit went with me. Wonderful company. Everybody in there was super cool. A couple of people I met that grew up where I grew up, and it was just a nice thing. And I think we're going to have a relationship moving forward with these guys because they were just nice, super nice people. And you got to get out there in the world. And I think what COVID did is stopped us from getting out there in the world, and we need to get back out there, and make our mark or whatever. I'm not done in life. I don't ever want to retire. I don't want to die either, but that's going to happen at some point. Hopefully it's not tomorrow. Hopefully it's 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. And we'll see. So listen, if you're getting rejected out there, don't worry about it. Maybe they're having a bad day. You never know if a guy and gal are, going through a divorce and they're just saying no to everything. I don't always think of it, they're saying no to me. I think they're saying no to their situation. Maybe they had a budget and I'm outside of the budget and they tell me no, I don't have any control of that. I don't negotiate price like that. So it's not something, I would never take that personally. That's just what it is. Um, I'm not out there asking girls out, so I don't have that issue anymore about getting told no. Although I wouldn't have an issue if that was my situation. I just don't have that situation. But looking for work, looking for speaking engagements, looking for guests, I get told no all the time. I think I think they're not smart telling me no, because you never know what's going to happen with this, if it's going to blow up or not. Like I said, I'm one guest away from it blowing up, and you guys can help with that. So listen, share my podcast, please. When you see those clips, please share them. Maybe you think it's a bad podcast, but maybe somebody else needs this information. Contact me, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com, if you have a really good topic. And I'll do another thing where I ask for topics. I did that a while back and someone put politics on. That's not going to happen. Religion's not going to happen. But there's other things I can talk about. I know a lot about sales and management and leadership and raising kids and nonprofit organizations. I know a lot about those things. I don't know everything about them. Nobody knows everything, but I know a lot of that stuff. So if you see this podcast and you like it, never mind. If you see this podcast, just share it. I don't care if you like it or not. If, like I said, if you have a topic you want to hear, let me know. I'll see what I can get up. Listen, if it requires getting a guest, I'll put the word out. There's a lot of guests out there that want to speak. If there's something that we have that I can, attract them with. So listen, I really appreciate you listening to my podcast. I even stopped numbering them because it just doesn't matter how many podcasts I have. It's just that I keep doing them, and I'll turn the corner one day, hopefully sooner than later. So I'm doing I got a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm trying to come up with something that's going to expand on my legacy and that's going to earn me money. So please share my podcast. Have a wonderful week. Spring is coming up, and I think that's where this cold has come from. And it looks like it's going to be hot next week in San Diego, so we're all down with that. So anyway, have a great week and weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.